Hi! In this video we'll complete the song. I hope everything has been clear up to now. Today we are going to look at the other chords you need to know to accompany a singer on piano. Let's go and good vision! Let's look at the second line and the sixth chords. We arrived at the D is D, and we do that with the ninth added. Then we have the D6th. Let's see as always first how it works in C scale. This is the C chord. In the sixth chord, I don't play the fifth, I play the sixth. So you see in the chord books a C6 done like this, but in the piano accompaniment you can play it like this. I leave the fifth free and possibly use it for arpeggios. You can play all four notes on the right hand, but it's not necessary. If we look at how it is done, a C6 chord is made from an A minor with the third in the bass. Now let's reason. When you have a chord with a note in the bass that is different from that of the fundamental of the chords, we write it like this. What you see is an A minor with a C in the bass, which is also called A minor with the third in the bass. Now, as we have seen, a C6 is composed of an A minor with the C on the bass. Question: is the C6 chord the same as an A minor chord with the C in the bass? The answer is no, they are two different chords. Let's see why. You notice it with your left hand. If I play C6, I can play it like this or like this. With the left hand, I arpeggio C. You see, they are the notes of the C chord. If I play an A minor with the C in the bass, statically they are the same, but I have to arpeggio an A minor. This is A minor with the C in the bass. This is a C6. Also, as we have already seen in 7th chords, in the E minor with the C in the bass, we are playing on the right the first, third and fifth degree of the A minor. In C6, we are playing the first, fifth and sixth of the C chord. We are lucky, the notes coincide, and therefore we can say that we play the C6 as an A minor on the right, instead of saying that we are playing the first, third and sixth of the C. So, now, after the D, the sixth, where we also put the ninth here, then the A, passing notes, and we have to do this movement. Let's go see. We have arrived at to know. Simple passage notes. A. Here we have to make the sound with the thumb of the right hand. A major 7th, A 7th, now there is a 13th chord here. The 13th chord and all its variations are very important in jazz, but in pop music they are not often encountered. Let's see the easiest way to play a 13th chord. A 13th chord is made up of 7 notes. There are really many notes, we have to simplify it. The fundamental note is played in the right hand. I can remove the third because it's the note that indicates whether the chord is major or minor. I remove the fifth. I cannot remove the seventh. As a rule, the chords above the seventh keep the seventh note. Now, 9, 11th and 13th remain. I can't remove the 13th because the chord is a 13th chord. So, I remove the 9th and the 11th. Here it is. This is the 13th chord with the right hand. Let's look at it from another point of view. This is a C chord. Now I play the minor 7th and then the 13th. Why do we call this 13th note instead of 6th? Because it implies that I'm playing the minor 7th. So I can play a basic 13th chord like this. In the case of A chord, this is A, this is the 7th of A, this is the 13th of A. And it fits very well. Here it is, 13th, and then I play the D, and then D minor. I could have finished this D minor even higher. But there will be the second verse of the song that will repeat this step. In order not to play in the same way, now I end up lower, and then later higher. And then the simple ending. A, F sharp minor, B minor 7, and then E add 9 with arpeggio to start the second verse. Let's see the second part of the song. Before we start low, now let's start high. Now I decide not to stay at the high part. Because I don't like leaving the central part of the piano without notes. So I take this B flat diminished, but I play the E lower, and we play the chord with an arpeggio. Now pay attention to this step. Before there was the B minor 7, but we can do something different. The times are 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then it ends like this. We divide this B minor 7 into two parts. On the first beat we play it as a B minor, and then on the second beat we play it as a B minor 7 playing a D on the right hand. And let's play the B minor with two notes without the fifth to have more lightness. So we repeat. Here it is the B minor 7 that gives me the support to make an E flat and then an E. So let's replace the E major 7th with an E flat. I couldn't call that chord D flat, but I'd have to call it D sharp. Never mind, E flat. Then we continue with D and D6. Generally, the 6th is the note that the singer is playing at that instant. Now, instead of doing now I play an A add 9 chord and then an 11th. Let's see what differences there are between an add 9, 9, 2, and 4 chord. The ninth chord is composed of 5 notes: first, third, fifth, minor seventh, and the ninth. There are too many notes. I put the C on the left. 4 notes remain. The fifth can be removed. This is the ninth chord. Then there are the reverses. I leave the fifth free and possibly use it for arpeggios. Second and third chords are also called suspended chord. This is a C. In sus2, you don't have to play the third but the second. But it finds a resolution by playing the third note successively. The suspended fourth is the opposite. I play the fourth instead of the mediant, and then I can go to the basic chord by resolution. The name suspended derives from this. These chords are used to create a feeling of delay before reaching the resolution of the chord. These chords don't contain the third, and resolution can be done on either a major or minor chord. This does not mean that you have to end on the C chord. In the piano accompaniment, you can use them to go to any chord, obviously respecting the harmony and the melody you want to play. To go to the C chord as defined, but the opposite is also true. You can play a C, make it suspended, and then go to another chord. Instead, I remind you that in the adjoining chord I play the E and end up on the C chord. A very important thing you need to know when you see second or fourth suspended chords above a text. Let's take a text with the chords above it and with the last chord a B4. The B4 chord is a suspended chord. It can be played as is, or it can be resolved to a B chord. Now, let's say you find a song with the B4 chord, which then becomes a B chord. In most cases, you won't find a sequence written like this. No need to specify that the B4 chord becomes a B. So, what you will find is only the B4 chord. The same thing goes for a B chord that becomes a B4 that remains suspended. You will not find a B chord preceding the B4 in the text. So, what you will find is only the B4 chord, and you have to decide how to play it. This alternation between B and B4 chord is easy to have with slow songs, or if the duration of the B4 measure is long. So, ultimately, you are not obliged to play a fourth or second chord at the exact moment you see the chord above the text, but you can decide how best to interpret it. I give a specific example on this video of the song Hero. At the end of the phrase, I play a B, then a B4, and then return to B. But only B4 is written on the text. Now from A, let's go to the 11th chord. Let's see how to play an 11th chord in C. This is our C chord. Let's put the minor 7th, we put the 9th, and we put the 11th. So the 11th chord has 6 notes. We move the C and play it with the left hand. We remove the 5th note, the G. 4 notes remain. This time we remove the E, the mediant. It is a much more important elimination than that of G, because we are eliminating the triton. And what we get with the C11 is a B flat on the right, with a low of C. So, an 11th chord is played with the fundamental on the left and a chord 1 tone down on the right. Example D, D11. E, I put the D on the right, E11. Let's go back to the dominant 7th chords for a moment. I play G7 like this, a G11 I play like this. Now let's go to C scale. The characteristics of G7 is that it is a 5th degree and resolves on the 1st degree. I do a turnaround in C. Now I replace the G7 with the G11. Even the G11, like the G7, can resolve on the 1st degree. Now I want to show you something to resolve a chord. I play a C7. Now I ask you a question and I give you 5 seconds to answer. If you play a C7, what is the 1st degree chord that allows resolution of the C7? If you took longer than 5 seconds, let's see why you took longer than 5 seconds. You need to remember that C7 is the 5th degree of the F scale, and therefore I have to go to F. This is the most effective method. However, it can happen that you don't remember, or have difficulty playing and remembering at the same time. It's possible to count backwards. In the C scale it's easy, but for scales with flat and sharp it's more complicated, and you risk that the song is over and you're still counting. I'll explain the trick I use if it can help you. To speed up you can reason like this. Instead of going from 5 to 1 backwards, you can think of going from 1 to 4 forward. So in C7 I don't consider the F scale but the C scale, and I go to the 4th note. Over time you will learn 4th chords, and C in 4th position will be faster. Let's go back to the C11 chord that we play with a C in the bass and a B flat in the right hand. Warning, you see a B flat, but those are notes of a B flat in the scale of C. So they are not the 1st, 3rd and 5th of a B flat, but they are the minor 7th, the 9th and the 11th of a C scale. C11 chord then resolves to the 4th degree to the right like 7th chords, so I go to F. A very important thing about the 11th chord is the movement that goes from the 11th chord to the basic chord, and vice versa. You've heard this passage from C11 to C 1,000 times. Let's go back to White Christmas. Now we do this final part differently than before. Instead of doing that, I go down with the bass and I play the 7th on the bass. And then the D, if you want you can add the 9th, and then the simple ending. And add the 9th again. Thanks for your attention. I really wanted to complete this project. because in the first theory video I was very pleased to see your positive feedback. I have committed myself with a lot of passion, and I hope I have been able to pass on my musical experience to you. Thank you very much to all of you.